Hello, and welcome to another video. Today, I am back with a Commander deck unboxing for the Tricky Terrain deck from Modern Horizons 3. Let's get started. Right away, we can see from the packaging that this is a green-blue ramp deck led by Omo, Queen of Vesuva, who appears to be wearing the Helm of the Host. So I don't know if that is a little hint there, but let's open this up and have a look around. Looks like it says, land a perfectly synchronized smackdown, but it's a bit covered in glue there, so anyway. Got some interesting looking punch outs here. And here's the deck. And our little extras are in here. The collector booster sample pack, which I'll save for the end of the video. Our life counter, and our deck box. And lastly, we have the insert. Looks like it's talking a bit about who Omo is. and then some information about the deck and the rules of Commander. Alright, let's start going through the deck. Alright, first up we've got Omo, who costs 2 and a hybrid green-blue for a 1/5 shapeshifter noble. Whenever Omo, Queen of Vesuva, enters the battlefield or attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. Each land with an everything counter on it is every land type in addition to its other types. Each non-land creature with an everything counter on it is every creature type. Looks like this is probably the alternate commander for the deck. Giadi Moag Ancient. It is 2, a green and a blue, for a 2/4 elemental. When Giadi Moag Ancient enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. At the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Giadi's power. I appreciate that even if this one isn't your commander, it can still play a good supporting role for the commander. So yeah, I like this. Moving on to the rest of the deck. Our first other creature is a fog bank, which is a wall that flies and has fog. Alright, we've got an Urza's power plant, which we can basically assemble Tron immediately if we've got an everything counter and Omo is out. There's our Urza's tower. And Urza's mine. A satyr wayfinder, whose job is to find the next party site. Arcane Denial is a counterspell. A Simic Guildgate. A treasure cruise for some card draw. a soul ring, a basilisk gate. Could be good if you've got a bunch of everything counters on your lands, so that you've got a bunch of gates. Beast Within destroys a permanent. Very useful. Tatyova Benthic Druid draws you cards for playing lands. Propaganda taxes your opponents for attacking you. A Simic Growth Chamber. Floriferous Vine Wall is a defender that hopefully finds you some land. An Arcane Signet. Desert of the Indomitable. Haship Oasis. March from Velisvel is an interesting one. It allows us to turn a bunch of our land into creatures. Could be good for closing out a game or making a big swingy play. Wonderscape Sage helps us draw cards with our lands. Copy Land does exactly what it sounds like. Desert Warfare is an incentive for cycling deserts, or even discarding them or milling them, and helps us create tokens. Trench Post is another land that wants us to have a lot of everything counters so that we can mill our opponents for a lot of cards. Sage of the Maze can produce mana, or is otherwise a gate payoff. Lazatep Query turns creatures into mana by sacrificing them, and then you can return them from the graveyard as 4/4 black zombies. Rampant Frogantua kind of helps you ramp by milling cards and then return lands to the battlefield. Sunken Palace is a cave that you can use to copy spells or abilities. Horizon of Progress potentially lets you tap for any color and play extra lands, or sacrifice it to draw a card. Planar nexus basically acts like it has its own everything counter that is static, and its reminder text is useful for remembering what all the land types are. Aggressive biomancy copies creatures and makes them fight. Talon Gates of Madeira is a gate that you can pay to put right onto the battlefield and phase out a creature, which is pretty cool behavior for a land. Hydroid Crisis is a flying trample hydra that draws you cards and gains you life. Terastodon is a creature that destroys non-creature permanents when it enters the battlefield. Lair of the Hydra is a land that can become a Hydra. Nissa, Steward of Elements, is a planeswalker that can put cards from the top of your library directly onto the battlefield and can animate your lands into creatures. Magus of the Candelabra is a creature that lets you pay into it to untap lands. Really good if you have mana doubling effects or non-land ways of producing mana. Lumbering Falls is a creature land. A Blast Zone lets you destroy non-land permanents. Apex Devastator is a 10/10 Hydra with 4 instances of Cascade. A Dreamroot Cascade. Summary Dismissal just clears the stack. Yavimaya Coast is a pain land. A Flooded Grove lets you filter mana. Hour of Promise fetches some lands and has a little desert synergy. Ramanap Excavator is a creature that lets you play lands from your graveyard. Hydra Brudamaster is a Hydra that creates other Hydra tokens when you make it monstrous. Drown in Dreams is a modal spell for drawing or milling cards. A Vine Glimmer Snarl. Vivian Reed is good for ramp. Will destroy an artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. And then ultimates to give your creatures +2/+2, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. Seems really good. We've got Yavamaya, Cradle of Growth, which makes everything a forest. Dryad of Elysian Grove lets you play an additional land and gives your lands every basic land type. Mirage Mirror can be used to copy an artifact creature, enchantment, or land. An Overflowing Basin. A Temple of Mystery. Chromatic Lantern. Similar to our Dryad, lets our lands tap for any color. Oblivion Stone can selectively destroy permanents. Scoot Swarm makes insect tokens whenever we play land and can copy itself. Wolvenwald Hydra has power and toughness equal to the number of lands we control. Evacuation clears the board of creatures. Replication technique is for copying permanents. Finale of Revelation hopefully draws you a lot of cards and can reset your graveyard back into your library. Mana Reflection is a mana doubler that affects any permanent, so it doesn't just have to be a land. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, will draw you cards and gain life, and then can be escaped from your graveyard. Curse of the Swine exiles creatures and replaces them with pigs. Always a fun spell. Vesuva is where Omo is from, and enters the battlefield as a copy of any land. Oh, nice. So Dark Depths is a land that enters the battlefield with 10 counters on it, which can be removed to make a 2020 Merit Lage. But hopefully you don't have to manually remove all the counters. Ideally, you can just copy this without the counters and get the 2020 immediately. Like that. So since Thespian Stage just becomes a copy of a land rather than entering the battlefield as a copy, it doesn't see the counters and will make that 2020 token. Avenger of Zendikar makes a plant token for each land we control when it enters the battlefield, and then puts a +1/+1 counter on each of those tokens for each land that we play thereafter. Seer's Sundial lets us pay to draw cards every time we play a land. Rampaging payoffs makes a 4/4 creature token every time we play a land. Expedition map lets us tutor for a land. Hidden Cataract is a cave with discover. And Hidden Nursery is also a cave with discover. Volatile Fault destroys an opponent's non-basic land and replaces it with a basic one. Growth Spiral is card draw and ramp. Elvish Rejuvenator is also ramp. Urban Evolution is draw 3 cards and play an additional land. Harmonize is draw 3 cards. Thornwood Falls. Sylvan Scrying is ramp. Acidic Slime is a creature that is basically removal. Pongify destroys a creature and replaces it with an ape. A Lush Oasis. A Skullwinder returns a card from your graveyard to your hand, and then does the same for your opponent. Desert of the Mindful. A Command Tower. Poison Dart Frog can tap 4 mana or give itself Death Touch. Glimmer Post is a locust like we saw before and gains you life for each locust, so hopefully sees a lot of everything counters when it enters the battlefield. A Quandrix Campus. And then I think the rest are probably basic lands. We've got our thick foil commander card for Omo. And then a bunch of tokens. Cool. So yeah, I'm really excited to sleeve this up and give it a shot. I'm sure I'll probably start modifying it over time once I get a feel for how it performs and kind of tweak it to do more of what I would like to do. Maybe kind of refine the vision of the deck, things like that. Kind of feels like there's a few different directions we could go with this. I am curious to know what you think of this deck. Is this one that you picked up for yourself, and do you have any plans to modify it? I would love to know all about that. And before we close out today, we've got the Collector Booster sample pack to open. So I will clean up all these cards here, and then we can open that up. All right, let's see what we got. That's just an ad card. So we've got a foil extended art, Fanatic of Ronus. And this is actually something that we could put in this deck if we wanted. It is within our commander's color identity, and definitely goes with the theme, I would say. So that seems pretty good. And a foil retro frame nesting grounds. Also something that we could put into the deck if we wanted to, as it's a colorless land. I don't know if we really want to be moving counters around that much, though it could be useful. Doesn't specify that it needs to be a +1/+1 counter or anything like that. So we could even move around the everything counters that Omo grants. Maybe if a permanent that has a counter is about to leave the battlefield, we could maybe spare the counter at least. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. There we have it. I appreciate you joining me today as we unboxed and looked through the entire Tricky Terrain Modern Horizons 3 Commander deck. I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, I would so appreciate if you would hit that thumbs up button. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll be back with new Magic the Gathering ASMR videos every Monday and Friday. Your support means the world to me. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.